Welcome back to another episode of Dolphins in Depth, the podcast provided to you by the Miami Herald. I am your host, Miami Herald columnist Omar Kelly, and this is a surprise episode because we did not expect that the Pro Bowl player for the Miami Dolphins would be on the trading block. We already knew Jalen Ramsey has an impending trade that she should expect about June 1st, but now, according to Adam Schefter, who more than likely got his information from a Rosenhaus, Jonnu Smith, the Pro Bowl starting tight end who had a career year for the Miami Dolphins, seems to be on the trading block, and they have had discussions with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, this is going to be interesting because it's usually about money. Joining me is Isaiah Smalls. Isaiah. How many starting players can the Miami Dolphins lose in one offseason?
I mean, the number seems endless at this point. Look, I know we just talked a little bit about this, before coming on air, but I honestly was surprised by this, just because at the end of the day, the Dolphins have been very vocal about this not being a rebuild year, right? They've been very vocal about this. Now, wait. Now, wait, hold on. Now, me and you have, obviously conflicting opinions on whether or not that is true or not, correct? But at the same time, I just want the actions, to match the words, right? A little bit, right?
Yes.
And so that's why I'm confused, because it's like you're saying one thing, but you're doing another.
Follow the actions, Isaiah. Follow the actions, not the words.
Shout out, good the OG Maya Angelou. Someone tells you who they are, believe them. Right? Shows you who they are, believe them. And the Dolphins are certainly showing me.
Is that Maya Angelou?
That is Maya Angelou, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, of course. Also OG. So
okay, yeah. We got to educate the people, because give them exactly what it is, because I'm not sure there's a certain demographic that has heard that fully.
If someone shows you who they are, believe them. Point blank period. Basically means if someone is acting a certain way, that's who they are. Not what they're telling you, not all the sweet nothings they're texting your phone with or whispering in your ear. It's the actions that make the person, right? And so the Dolphins' actions right now, especially if they get rid of Jonnu, considering the season that he had last year, he was second on the team in reception, he led the team in reception. He led the team in
receptions, set all the tight end records for receptions, yardage, touchdown, had the best season. And John Emery basically said, hey, he can play better. He should have played better. Yes. And I kind of agree with him. Jonnu didn't even contribute in the first month of the season.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. The truth of the matter is, Isaiah, this is about money. And let me tell you how the business of the NFL works. And this is the hardest thing for young reporters and the average fan to get. The NFL is a business. There are 32 different franchises on that one particular team, and those franchises have to look out for their owners and their constituents. Jonnu Smith, remember, this is a young man that once got a $50 million contract from the New England Patriots, coming from the Tennessee Titans as a backup. So don't act like he don't know what his market is or where the value is. He got traded to the Atlanta Falcons. He was the number 2 in Atlanta, but put up very respectable numbers, which is how he ended up here. Obviously, he signed a 2-year, $8 million deal with the Miami Dolphins, but that was about making sure that you had back-end money and getting home. Now that you've established yourself, had a career year, you want to get back to where you were in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to live in the hood of the NFL when you really belong in the burbs. And
and just to really drive that point on, I just looked up the tight end salaries. Where do you think he ranks among all the tight ends in the NFL in terms of salaries? Just give me a guess. You actually just said the number.
Bottom third. Because I know that backups make about $3 million. So where is he?
He's 32nd.
32nd.
But ahead of him, right, Tyler Warren, who was just drafted, right? Austin Hooper, Brock Bowers. Obviously, Brock Bowers had a crazy year last year, and he's in for a lot of money. But just so we're clear, the Noah Gray, who is the backup tight end on the Kansas City Chiefs, makes more than him. Colston Loveland, the tight end who was just drafted by the Bears, he makes more than him.
We can't count rookie deals because rookie deals are slotted no matter the position. Okay.
Okay. I'll throw those names out. Kyle Pitts makes more than him. Mike Gesicki,
on a fifth-year option, I believe. So
Mike Gesicki, not a fifth.
Now there. What is Mike at? $6 million?
Mike is at 8.5.
What is he at?
8.5.
Okay. Yes. Jonnu is far better than Mike Gesicki. And we should, if you are a Dolphin fan, this shouldn't even be debatable. Even though they are very similar pieces and similar players. Yeah, exactly. Jonnu, when you're making 4.8, you kind of want to get into Mike Gesicki territory. The problem is if you're the Miami Dolphins and you just spent ridiculous amount of money last offseason taking care of all of your players to keep everybody happy, are you going to do the exact same thing this year? And if you do it, isn't there going to be a snowball effect? Because the last I checked, Jordan Brooks' guaranteed money ends at this season. Once you have guaranteed money ends, you basically want a new deal. Aaron Brewer guaranteed money ends after this season. You want a new deal. Zach Steeler's guaranteed money ends. You want a new deal. Jonnu Smith is entering the final year of his contract. The people that you try to take care of the people that could be your lead dogs. And they did that last year. The question is, will they do it this year? And realistically, where's the money going to come from?
Yeah, no, and I think that's why you got to look at kind of got to scratch your head a little bit with some of the decisions that the Dolphins made, because at the end of the day, you saw this coming, right? I'm sure you saw this coming at some way, some level.
Trade? No, I didn't see a trade coming. I thought,
but at least not the shakedown, but like the knocking on the door. And
hold on, it's not fair to call it a shakedown because
I walked it back. I said not a shakedown, but just a polite knock on the door, asking for some more.
Yeah, the offseason is when it's time to do business. Like
exactly.
You don't talk money during the season, but the offseason is when it's time to do business. I'm sure Drew Rosenhaus, which has a very good relationship and with the Miami Dolphins, has said, hey, let's try to keep Jonnu happy. Let's at least get him into the neighborhood of the $8 million a year. That's double the salary, though, Isaiah. And he's a 30-year-old. Do you want to see him do it again? Do you want to make a commitment? And on top of that, what are your options if he does play hardball? But realistically, there's no way that Jonnu can play hardball because he has to participate in mandatory minicamp. There's only 2 more weeks left, and the last one is mandatory minicamp. And then any day he sits out training camp, I forget what the fine is, but it's like nearly $50,000 a day. At a certain point, by the end of training camp, you're playing for free. So it does not necessarily benefit you. Now, you can do what a number of veterans have done from time to time, including Mr. Jalen Ramsey, where, my hamstring or my groin is hurt. Until my bank account starts to feel better, I'm not sure I'm going to be practicing. That you just have to be there. You are not mandated to participate in activities. So you've seen that with Xavier Howard. You've seen that. I don't know if Zach Sealer pulled that. Zach Sealer's pulled an OTA holdout, not only OTA hold in. And he might be embarking in one now. For those who don't know, Zach did not participate in yesterday's OTA that we attended. I personally, neither did Jonnu. I personally do not take attendance in OTAs, and I am not shaming you, throwing stones. I don't care. I'm not taking attendance. I'm like the substitute teacher. You show up, you show up. You don't show up, okay. It's not my business. But this is the time to do business in the NFL. if he is traded, Adam Schefter is saying that there has been conversations with the Pittsburgh Steelers about a trade. This doesn't make sense to me unless you're getting back a player or let's say a third round pick. At this point, I'm trying to save my job, so I don't really care about the draft pick. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be a player that makes it make sense to me. Mm-hmm. But I'm not Chris Greer. What happens if Jonnu is moved, in your opinion?
I mean, I think the Dolphins are in for a very disastrous, very rude awakening. Because I think people seem to forget that last season, the downfield stuff wasn't really working for the Dolphins. And so what really allowed the Dolphins to win games, to find success, was, Jonnu doing damage underneath, right? And obviously that it was successful, right? Year 2 in the system, you get a little bit more familiarity, right? It doesn't take him, hopefully, it doesn't take him that, 3 games, to kind of burst onto the scene. And, it's unfortunate because I don't know who is going to be that tight end that can kind of come in and, be that pass catcher for you, because Pharaoh Brown, projected mostly as a blocker.
Tanner Connor
could barely
in the Seattle game. Tanner Connor started and played in the role that intended for Jonnu Smith. Do you remember that?
I don't, and then that says something. That says something.
Yeah, Tanner Connor has had some very impressive training camps. I will testify to that. He was an impressive rookie. He had an impressive second year, got hurt, and that was last year. I think he's been hurt twice. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, he was playing ahead of Jonnu Smith. Don't ask me why. As a starter in that Seattle game, and I believe he got hurt. I don't know if it was that game and then got put on ice, but I'm going to testify. I have seen Tanner Connor make plays in that role.
That's fine and dandy. However, that doesn't, it's training camp, right? Like anybody can look like a star in training camp. Like, let's see what you're doing when there's somebody, across the line of scrimmage from you that's not wearing aqua and orange, right? Like let's see that. And when that has happened, there hasn't been, much there. So I think it puts the Dolphins in a terrible position if unfortunately they have to get rid of Jonnu. I think they should try to keep him, get him in. Obviously the cap situation is what it is. You trade, Jalen after June 1st, you get a little bit more wiggle room and you try to see what you can finagle there. But it's May 29th. Granted, the season is still, 3 months away, basically. But at the same time, this isn't the time for you to be losing players, right? That's what kind of bugs me out. Like, you should be, look, you still got holes at that corner position, right? Like, you gotta fill that. Like the offense, obviously the offensive line.
Don't ignore the offensive line because, and I said this on Twitter and it hit a hornet's nest. But something happens to Patrick Paul from an injury standpoint. It's a wrap. It's a wrap on the season. Right now, Ryan Hayes is the heir apparent, or maybe Jackson Carman. I think we all remember what that looked like. So
wasn't pretty.
No,
I think because of the uncertainty around that offensive line, just because we haven't seen them all play together, with obviously Jonah S. and James Daniels coming off a Achilles injury, like that's still an unknown for us in the media, right? And so to have as much stability as possible, obviously Tyreek, Jalen, and Jonnu with Devon Achane, like that was okay, cool. Like we got something, but that was a foundation. But now you start chipping away at that. It begs the question: is this necessarily a rebuild? Like, is this a rebuild season? That we'll leave that to the columnists to ultimately opine on. But like at the end of the day, it just begs the question: like, what's going on here, man? Like, and the fact that this leak too is, to me, it's a power move, right? It's if this came from Rosenhaus to Schefter, it's a power move to get the Dolphins to play ball. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, you are correct.
It's
a power move to send the smoke signals to the rest of the league. Hey, there's a tight end out here who's looking for new money. You want to make an offer? Make an offer. Or they're trying to get to the table and figure out what is the baseline for salary. You gave a great comp, Mike Gesicki. If I'm Jonnu Smith, I want a new deal, and I want that Mike Gesicki money at the minimum.
At minimum, we can scroll up a little bit and see who's okay right above him. But Dawson Knox is still playing off of his rookie deal, I believe, right? So he's like 9.8. Hunter Henry's at 9. Dallas Goedert's at 10. Taysom Hill's at 10. Juwan Johnson is 10.
Yeah, you're past if you're and Dallas Goedert was on the trading block this offseason. Yep. So yeah, I think we're right there. Dawson Knox, Dallas Goedert in terms of what Jonnu Smith can contribute, and also keep in mind he's 30 years old. Once you reach 30, you're gonna begin playing at a discount in the NFL. Tyreek's gonna learn about that pretty soon. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But once again, never-ending amount of drama for the Miami Dolphins, which already have Jalen Ramsey on the trade block. Maybe this encourages more GMs and executives to give Chris Greer a call to figure out what they can piece together about his team. But remember, the rebuild in 2019 started with the selling away of pieces. So the trade away of pieces, who knows? Maybe that's what we've got in store for our future here in Miami in 2025. But on that note, we will be back later on to talk a little bit about the June 1st impending trade of Jalen Ramsey. On that note, we will say goodbye.